Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to throw down some paint on the Mopar 361B. Welcome back. I hope everyone had a good week. As you can see, I've got this engine cleaned, taped, and ready for some paint. Now I've gone through with a little bit of a wire brush, clean this off as best I can, but for the most part, trying to clean this surface is a pain. I've been using some brake clean and some solvents, but every rag I use, even the lint-free, creates lint because it's so rough. So I've kind of brushed it off. I did a little bit of cleaning, sprayed it on, and I just brushed it off with an old paintbrush, and I think we're good to go. And here is the color we're going with. This is a 1962 to 1967 Chrysler Corporation engine enamel blue. It's pretty close to my stand here, which a lot of other people kind of liked. I'm not a fan of the orange because every Mopar engine I see is orange. The other color would be that turquoisey green, and ugh, I just find that gross. So this isn't really the most flattering color blue, but all I can say is it's not orange and it's not green. So that's what it's going on. So the surface is ready. Now, normally I would prime the surface, but every form I've read, especially using the duplicate color, which actually most people recommend using on these blocks, they tell you straight out, do not go with the high heat manifold primer. Direct to block, it's going to take an extra coat or two, but it ends up being a far superior finish and it lasts a lot longer. So there we go. Through on the first coat here, just a light one. It's not quite, you can still see a little bit of the brown through it. Didn't want to go too heavy. There's a lot of edges and corners to go back and forth on. Make sure they get coated good too. Try not to get any runs. Not that it's really a big deal with the surface of this block, but it's a little bit brighter. Oh, here we go. This is kind of the color that I'm going for, which was really close to my stand, and I like it. I like where this is going. So anyway, gonna let this tack up a bit and give her another coat. Well, that's the second coat on, a little heavier. Not quite a full wet coat, but definitely heavier than the first. Can really start to see that color starting to come through here now. It's really starting to turn blue. Still a little darker than the stand, which is gonna be, but it's going on nice. I like it. Anyway, let her tack up on to coat 3. And there we have it. The 1964 Chrysler 361B in a Chrysler blue. And I like it. It is looking good. And it turned out awesome. You still just make out where that repair was, but really that paint hit it really good. And this gives a nice smooth surface. Got a nice gloss to it. No runs. That's a bonus, because it did go on pretty thick. Now you can see here on the surface, on the deck, a little bit of blue here right on the edge. And of course there's a little blue on the top. Those are the spots where the gasket doesn't actually mate with the surface. So I just wanted to try to make it so I didn't get as much bleed through, the little bit of rust running down the side of the engine. So I put the gasket on there, measured that out, and those are the spots that doesn't touch. So hopefully it'll help cover it and keep it nicer longer. I decided to cover up those frost plug holes, just, give a little offset of the color, make them pop out there and stand out, and I think that looks really cool. You won't see them. The manifolds, exhaust manifolds will come down over the side, and they'll be tucked in the engine bay, but I know they're there. It's just a little touch that I thought looked really nice. And a little view of the front where you can see the gaskets don't actually touch. And the rest will be covered up by the time and cover. So now that the painting is done, really we're getting right to the point where it's time to start assembling this block with the parts I have. I don't have a lot at the moment. Things are slowly coming in. But what I do need to do now is when I first got this block, I gave it a quick cleaning, you know, make sure there's no big chunks and shot dust and stuff inside there, and clean it out. But I wanted to be careful that I didn't get any oils for when they oiled the cylinders and any contaminants on the block itself, because it was so clean. But now that it's painted, once this hardens up, I'll give this a day or so to harden up again even more. All the oil holes, the oil galley plugs, all that's got to come out. And now it's time to get that air compressor in there. I got a little hose, bendy hose that I'm going to shove through, blow it out to make sure there's nothing loose in there that I can get at. The same thing goes with all the holes for the water system. Get the hose in there and start blowing it out and knocking it out and clean up the best I can. And then of course, I already have the cam bearings are in, so they'll get to be washed real good. Pull my caps back off and make sure everything is clean there. And then I'll get that crank in there and that rear main seal on permanently. And hopefully, fingers crossed, as long as I own this vehicle, I'll never have to tear this engine down again. Now it's time to remove my oil galley plugs, block off plugs. This is going to be my last chance to clean this engine out before it's time to start putting her back together. So we have one plug down here, which is exposed outside. All this does, this is the access for your fuel rod that goes through and runs off the cam to operate the fuel pump. So we get that one out of there just because there might be a little bit of crud built up on the side. I want to make sure there's nothing in the threads. Then we also got one that goes right here. This is actually starts running into our oil galley. Around the back, the ones you saw me take out, they're the two end ports that come out by the cam cap. And of course, you can see how they run up here. This is where your oil pressure gauge goes. Now normally on this engine, you just have one coming back. This one was an electronic one that reads the dash, which the dash does work. I got that going. But I'll be running an electric one, but I'm also going to be running a secondary one, an actual oil pressure one where the oil travels through the small line creating the pressure. That'll be kind of down under the dash, just because I'm not trusting a gauge that I tinkered with to get working from 1964. So now for cleaning these out, the oil passage holes, we've got these pipe cleaners. They're actually made for, I guess, cleaning out reusable stainless steel straws. Get at the dollar store, but they're almost made for this. They even come with a little silicone blob of silicone on the end for cleaning, and they are the perfect size. They're just a little resistance. You can go right through, and just that one push, look what came out of there. Fine, fine dust. So we're gonna work on the through hole here, work on the oil galley coming across here. We'll go right across the whole block. Then when we're done, we'll get the compressor and blow out that fine dust and anything else that might be in there. So I went over this. Now I'm confident everything's clean. Oops. Used my old pipe cleaner here. Got everything done. Then I went through with my air gun and I went through all my water jacket holes going into the pump. Everything blown out. Now another thing I've done is gone through my tappet holes and I've cleaned them out gently. And this is what I kind of come up with. Kind of my own little flappy wheel. As I put that in the hole, it slowly winds up. And I've just been working it back and forth gently. There's not really any pressure on it, but it has really cleaned up these holes nice. Now that is 2000 grit paper, and just with the weight of it spinning, just to take off a little bit of surface rust. And then once I blew those holes out, I went and got a tap it and cleaned up a bit, just to make sure we have a perfectly smooth fit. They just slide in there like butter. Now one more thing I did is I got these dental picks and I went through where the main seal is to make sure the corners are extremely clean, that one, there's no pieces in here going to bother the seal. Then also, this is where the metal lip and the crank slides in. Make sure that there's nothing in there as well too. Then I also use this to go through all my bolt holes for my caps, and also on both sides of the head, just pick it in there just to make sure there's no foreign objects in there, chunks of anything, so that when I do torque it down, I know everything's going to be perfect. But this engine is clean and ready to go. Now the crank, of course, just needs to be rubbed down because it's been oiled. I will use some brake clean one more time to clean the seats. I also clean the tops, the caps where they go. I'll give all my bearings and everything one more clean down. And I got to pick up some assembly lube tomorrow, because that is the next step. The next step is to permanently fit this crank in here, and hopefully things will go smooth. But that assembly lube is something I do not have, and 100% a necessity. Whew, look at that in all its glory. That is a beauty. So anyway, that's it for today. As usual, thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys again later.